The thorn amongst the roses, or what do you think? The roses amongst the thorn? What do you... It's a joke. Sybil's taking me very seriously. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Are you a thorn or are you a rose?
The thorn or the rose. Don't worry about it. Hana?
I'm both.
You both, hey. I like your way of thinking. Hana Yoshimoto is the Education Chief at UNICEF South Africa. Lovely to see you. And Thembiso Magajana, who's the CEO of Social Coding SA. Nice to see you.
Lovely to see you, Lisa.
All right, so let's get on with it. Sidwell, let me start with you. So what are green skills? I mean, let's just start with the basics. And what do we need to do to achieve them?
Look, I think context is very important. We're talking green skills in the context of, the world facing challenges, and as far as, climate changes, among others. And we have the world leading organizations such as the World Economic Forum, the UN with its, agencies, the World Bank, among others, who have, heightened the need to, address the global challenges. So what we basically doing as an organization, together with our partners, we are positioning the youth to solve the world's problems. And how we go about doing it, it's with, the understanding that the world is going digital. At the same time, the world is going green. And just to give you some reflection, the World Economic Forum suggests that the green economy is going to grow by $10,000 trillion by 2030, with the associated, green jobs. And as such, it necessitated us to, take that bold step and focus in that area in terms of, empowering the youth. And at a basic level, green skills will entail, among others, set of, integrated skills, which are aimed at enabling, everyone involved to apply and practice minded change and practices which will see us into a sustainable world.
Great, thank you, Cyril. Thank you. We look at, and this one, Hana, I'm going to give it to you. Obviously, it was quite a heavy load you put on the youth's shoulders, Cyril, by saying that we are equipping them to basically solve the world's problems. No, I mean, gee whiz, don't worry about it. I'm going to go home and tell my children, you've got to fix our mess. Because in a way, that's kind of what the poor children of the next generation, they have to do. But how do we do that, Hana? Because that's, that it is real that we do have to look at this next generation and empower them with the skills and the knowledge to tackle these issues head on. How do we do that?
So earlier this year, there was a review and recommendations made to the UN Framework Convention for Climate Change, and there it was very clearly mentioned that children are disproportionately affected by climate change, women, children especially. The fact that there needs to be a priority over youth, the climate change actions, not necessarily for the youth, but with the youth. There's certain recommendations such as having a specific fund targeting children and young people related to climate change, etc. So there are some high-level discussions ongoing. And what I would also recommend, and also because they were mentioned about the digital skills, the green skills, etc., what I would like to highlight is the value of the transferable skills. The 21st century skills, soft skills, whatever you want to call it. I'm in education. When you look at the actual impact at the school level, in the future, near future, or even already happening, the classrooms are going to be even more crowded. Either going to be super hot, super cold, no water, girls would be very much disadvantaged. We're talking about migration, internal migration, immigration. Our children, our grandchildren, it might become a default that you're learning with different nationalities in one classroom. You never know. South Africa there's a lot of people who leave South Africa, but a lot of people come in because of their situations in the country. Some of them could be refugees. How are we as parents? Are you fine? How ready are you to send your children to school where there's different profiles, more than now? We talked about different profiles earlier, but it's more a preparation, but it's all linked to transferable skills. How can you coexist, co-live with these changes, different people around you? And transferable skills, we talk about the need in the labor market, but it actually starts at the children's age. It starts from baby, toddler age. And what are we doing now to do that at home, but also at school level?
Yeah, amazing we don't necessarily think of these things in terms of, those green skills, and moving into the modern age, because these are real issues. We have them everywhere. This is the world that we're living in at the moment, and it's important we teach our skills, but we also teach as much as our children, but we must teach ourselves these skills as well. Thembiso, let me speak to you now. For you, what would you say is, and why is it important to fostering a generation of environment conscious and technologically adept individuals on a continent that have massive challenges? And I mean, we saw those challenges, and I take us back to the horrible years of COVID, where we saw those that were great and they carried on flying in terms of technology, but those that didn't, they were left behind once again. And this is a danger.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. I think the important aspect of answering your question is I have to start with the conscious aspect of it, right? The reality is we are not going to reach the goals that we have set for ourselves as a country, as a continent, as a world, if we do not engage everyone, and particularly the youth. What tends to happen is you have a bunch of adults that sit around the table. They set the global agenda, they set the policy, and they expect the youth to run with it, right? Now, and very recently, realized that this is not the case. Young people, more and more today, they want to know, why should I do this? Why should I care about this? And you saw this lovely video that was playing, and as Merchants rightly said, this was the first year we had an SDG goal tied to our theme. Now, working with rural communities in the last 8 years, my assumption would be that the biggest challenge that our learners would face is the technical aspect of it, building the technological solution. What we realized was the conscious aspect of it, because the first question was, what the hell are the SDGs? And these are rural communities where they have no idea about global agendas, but when the worst, I was about to say a swear word, goodness. When the stuff hits the fan, they will be the worst hit, right? Yeah. Now, what we had to do then is go a bit back and start with the basics. And instead of going all out with the coding and robotics, we started with, these are the 17 SDG goals. And we gave them the homework to say, go and have your own definition of this. Now, the highlight for me when the learners came back to describe their definition was one learner who said, and defined the SDG goals as this. He said, the SDG goals are a wish list that many friends got together to create to make the world a better place. What was scary for me was the wish list, right? Because that's an underlying risk that if we do not engage young people, that's exactly what these goals will be, a wish list. So that speaks to the conscious aspect of your question. The technological aspect has, I think, even greater concerns for me. The first is, earlier on, the COO of Nedbank mentioned these great opportunities that lie in the digital era, right? Opportunities are only opportunities if you can harness them. Now, if we are living in a country where 41% of us are digitally illiterate, then these opportunities don't involve us as well, right? We have issues where you have young people today who cannot send an email, who do not know how to surf the internet for opportunities. We are leaving them behind, and we will not reach these goals. Deeper than that, the bigger concern, if we look at the theme of Africa Rising, is the fact that as a continent, we produced fewer software engineers than the country of Japan as a continent. So the importance lies in being able to address global agendas and have the perspective where the people who will be most hit by it have a voice to contribute, preparing the future workforce, but most importantly, empowering the people.
Yeah, brilliantly put. It really, really is. So, I mean, if we look, Sid, well, let me come back to you and say, how do we build a sustainable future through skills development and mentorship? Because clearly that's at the heart of all of it.
So we have programs which we implement focusing on, capacitating, our employees in terms of driving sustainable, change for the business. We've signed up with the UN Global Compact, just in terms of, joining the global business community so that we can tap into the best practice. Because, like you rightfully indicated, we need to build a base in terms of people who've got the understanding and the know-how of how to go about addressing the challenges which are before us. And therefore, mentorship becomes very important. But I think what we've realized is that there's a bigger challenge. And that's where we, partnered with like-minded organizations in terms of going out and reach the underprivileged, communities. And in particular youth, because we feel that youth have so much to offer. If you provide them with opportunities, the guidance and the mentorship, then, you are halfway towards addressing some of the challenges. And we've put this to test, as a proof of concept, and, it gave us wonders in terms of results. And we're looking at scaling this in terms of, the impact and the reach. So mentorship plays an important role, and a call is, for all of us, because in this area, we're not looking at competing, but we're looking at, making a difference as a collective.
Yes.
Yeah. Perhaps you want to add to that as well, Hana,
Yes.
in terms of that whole issue.
Yes. Two things. One is that we also work in STEM, especially encouraging girls in poor rural areas to go into this occupation. But what has changed since COVID is we used to partner with hundreds of companies, small, medium-sized companies in different provinces that has STEM careers. After COVID, it has reduced to about 50. Why? Because these companies, maybe because they're in STEM, their employees work from home, and so they have already reduced the size of the office. So we used to send grade 9 to 11 learners as a job exposure, like a job shadowing. 3 years, 1 month each. It's not possible now. Now this model is not working. So we have to think how it works. And this is just one example what the pandemic may have changed. Another thing is, I talked about transferable skills, but transferable skills, it's so hard. The definition varies, right? It's a mix of behaviors, values, skills, knowledge, etc. We've been working with the government to define that, what competencies are, but what's also difficult is to measure them. I think as employers, as corporates, you also recruit young people, and it's true that young people need to strengthen their foundational literacy, numeracy, and their employability. But at the same time, the question goes to the corporate saying, how exactly are you recruiting these young people? Are you really recruiting for the jobs that you really need? Because still, many of us are, including us, recruiting based on self-reported CVs. So right now we're actually coming up with an AI-based measurement tool on this competencies, but it's also something that to think about. We put in pressure on the young people to respond to the climate change, to be more employable, even in green economy, but it's also how do you offer the job? How do you recruit these young people would be something to discuss about.
Yeah, indeed. I'm going to give you the closing comments. If you can sort of wrap this up for us, because I know you can do a brilliant job at it, and just give us those messages you'd like to leave us with.
I think if there's anything anyone in this room could leave with, it's don't be afraid to do hard things. Right. I look at merchants will always be a fond company of mine because they were the people that backed the underdog, right? There's nothing glamorous about doing work in rural communities. People will tell you there's no infrastructure, there's no way we can put the internet because there's no infrastructure. It's hard, and then it's hard. It's time to do the hard things. That's the first thing. The second thing is the reality is the pace of reform is slower than the pace of the pace technology is moving at, right? When government first started thinking about coding and robotics as a curriculum, these were conversations that were happening in 2018. Got drafted in 2021, gazetted in 2024, all right? The reality is by the time we have them in all of our schools, and when I say all, I'm including the rural schools that tend to be forgotten, 15, 20 years have passed. But the curriculum, which is now irrelevant, has remained the same, but technology has changed. So we need to be very aggressive in how we hold policymakers, ourselves, accountable to the pace of reform. This is something we must make urgent, right? Because the reality is, as one of my learners told me, it's nice that you're teaching us about climate action and you're teaching us about future jobs, but there will be no jobs if there's no world.
Yeah.
Let's be serious about the pace of reform, but let's also be serious about doing the hard things.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you to all of our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause. Cyril, Hana, and Thembiso, thank you very, very much for talking to us. And I know this was the tough one, because this is the one between this and lunch. Lunch is outside. So everybody go, enjoy lunch, please. 20 minutes. I know it's short, but we've got a lot to get through in the afternoon as well. So we can start getting you back here at about 10 to 2. Please, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, guys.